is Game 2 as we saw the setting sun behind this beautiful park. And Stan Carey joining us again tonight. And Stan, Litson Sports winning the first game 7-2, and they could close the season out tonight with a win.
They certainly could, Don. They're looking like a very strong team. They've got some real good bats. Mind you, Mitchell Industries, they're the defending champions in this league, and they're not about to give it up without a fight for sure.
Well, Mitchell Industries are going to be the home team for this Game 2 of this series, which means Litson Sports in the purple and gray will be leading off. And they'll be beginning with the shortstop Cliff Fraser, followed by catcher Mike Pingle, and then the pitcher Rod Schulhauser. And on defense for Mitchell Industries as we begin this game, the top of the first inning, the pitcher will be number 11, Paul Mike. Randy Petro, the losing pitcher in Game 1, and the catcher Bob Hambrook. At first base is Randy Petro. At second base, Miles Fleming. Steve McClure is at short, and Rick Davis is at third base. Brad Scott, John Royston, and Reg Cunningham, the outfield from left to right. And Paul Mike now on the mound getting the sign from catcher Bob Hambrook. And this game is underway with the first pitch. Called strike from plate umpire Lisa Turbot. The base umpire John Turbot at first, and Brian Leonard is at third. There's Paul Mike, number 11. A swinging miss for Cliff Fraser.
Paul has got a real good fastball. He can also put some real action on the ball. I've watched him have some marvelous games.
Well, he came within a whisper of pitching a no-hitter in the championship series last year. There's a swinging strike three, and Cliff Fraser becomes the first out and the first strikeout for Paul Mike. And this brings up the catcher Mike Pingle.
Paul's got off to a fast start here. Last year he was league MVP, team MVP, and just lined his trophy case, as it were.
Well, we talked about the fact that they are the defending champions, and 6 of the 9 starters on this Mitchell Industries team tonight were part of that championship team last year. Of course, they, by nature of the Bomba rules, they have to draft people, and so there are some new faces tonight, but there's a key 6 right there, and they know what it's like to win, and obviously they're going to, with their backs to the wall, do something, or try to do something about it tonight.
They're not going to roll over and play dead, and that's a fact.
Mike Pingle, swinging strike. Paul Mike. There's a ground ball hit out towards Miles Fleming. He comes up with it, flips it on to Randy Petro, and right now there are 2 out, 2 quick outs in the top of the first inning. Litson Sports in the purple and gray leading this series 1-0. It is the best 2 out of 3. And this is the pitcher. Well, you will see him in the bottom half of this inning, Rod Schulhauser.
Rod is an excellent player. He is their pitcher, as they say. He also does a little bit of catching, plays a little bit of shortstop, good utility player.
There's a smash out into center field, and it gets away from the center fielder, John Royston, and on with a base hit is Rod Schulhauser. He stops at first base as Royston was able to come up with the ball in center field, so we have a base hit with 2 out, and there's a good look right there at Rod Schulhauser. We'll see a lot more close-ups of him as this game goes on. Randy Petro holding him on at first base, and behind is plate umpire John Turbot. And this will bring up the cleanup man, the first baseman, number 15, Kirby Connor, a left-handed batter.
Kirby's hitting .370, good contact hitter.
One of the originals of this Litson Sports team.
He's played 4 years in the league.
Mike now keeping an eye on throwing a called strike. And, of course, this is a good pitcher with a fastball like Paul Mike has. It's an awful lot more difficult to steal second, and I don't know what type of speed Schulhauser has.
Lots.
He's a big guy. He's got a lot of size to him. There you see Kirby Connor, number 15. Kirby can also do some pitching. There's a ball hit off to our left and out of play.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens here tonight. As you know, we had quite a downpour earlier today, and the field has dried up a little bit, but it's a little muddy out there on the mound, and indeed...
well, Rondo, I was out at home plate just with a pair of running shoes on, and I just about got lost to the knees, so it's not... it's a beautiful night now. The flag is blowing a little from left to right in straightaway center field, just behind the 380-foot mark, 330 down the lines here at Nelson Baseball Stadium. Paul Mike now checking first base, winds and fires. There's a called strike 3, and heading on down to first base, and Randy Petro wasn't aware of what was going on, and he finally tags him out. A good play there by the catcher, Bob Hambrook. A swinging strike 3. The ball got away from Hambrook, but he was able to fire it down to Impetro, who actually, instead of touching the base, put the tag on. I don't think Impetro knew exactly what was going on. He may have thought it was a foul ball.
Guard, yeah.
Well, there was just a one hit and no runs, and so the score after the first half inning of this 7-inning ball game is Litson Sports nothing and Mitchell Industries coming to bat.
Well, Don, you see that flag is still just kind of fluttering a little bit to right there.
Well, Mitchell Industries now with the opportunity to jump out in this ball game after they hold Litson to no score in the top of the first inning. And leading off the bottom of the first inning will be the left fielder, Brad Scott. There you see him there, and that's a well-known name to any cable watchers. Brad, of course, the producer of an awful lot of sports on cable broadcasting, not only Cougar hockey and other junior B hockey out of Oakville, but also an awful lot of other sporting events that take place on CableNet Sports during the year. The second batter will be the pitcher, Paul Mike, and the shortstop, Steve McClure, will be the third batter up in the bottom of the first inning. As we told you, the Lakeshore Men's Baseball League Championship Series with Litson, having won the first game 7-2, leading this series 1-0, a win tonight for Litson, and the season is over, and it'll be hockey time.
And you got that right. Brad's a good leadoff hitter. He's got lots of smack to the ball. He's also very reliable, and his nickname is Wheels. And
well, there's no question. He can run. There's no.
He surely can.
You know, he can lay him down. Obviously, one of his family is here tonight, as you probably heard.
They're urging him on. They're looking to get a fast start here for sure. They've got an interesting start to the lineup. Paul Mike is equally as good a hitter as
and a left-handed batter as well. And Mike, of course, Mike has the opportunity, can go the wrong way. This is Rod Schulhauser on the mound, number 22 for Litson. Mike Pingle is the catcher. We'll set up the rest of the defense in just a moment as Schulhauser winds and fires to Brad Scott for a called strike one. Kirby Connors at first, Dave Whale at second, Cliff Fraser at short, Terry Stapleton at third. In the outfield from left to right, Harry Barron, Jim Krakowski, and John Supple. Ball outside, even the count at 1.
Schulhauser is no stranger to championships either. His team won the first 2 championships in this league.
What can you tell us about Rod?
He's the consummate ball player. He plays well at just about any position. He's real aggressive. He comes to play. He comes to win. He likes the game a lot, and you can tell just from chatting with him. He's a very intense individual.
There's a ball that's just outside. Schulhauser doesn't like the call. Walks off the mound a little bit, and Mike Pingle holding the ball and then finally flipping it out. That ball may have hit, quote, the black of the outside corner. There you see the count, 3-1, none out here in the bottom of the first inning. Mitchell Industries needing a win to extend the season. Rod Schulhauser fires. Called strike 2, right, bringing the count to full. Certainly he doesn't want Brad Scott to be on base with Paul Mike behind him.
And let's not forget you've got Steve McClure in the cleanup spot there. And
there's a swinging foul. The count remaining at 3-2. McClure, of course, the shortstop.
With some real heavy lumber.
And he'll be the third batter. And then Miles Fleming, the second baseman, will be batting fourth. So if they get around to him. Paul Mike, of course, plays slow pitch as well. Fine player. Good all-round athlete.
Yes, he just basically loves the game. He's not quite as intense as some of the other players. He's out here to have a good time.
There's ball 4. So Brad Scott draws a base on balls. And this will bring up Paul Mike. What kind of arm does Pingle have?
Pretty fair.
As
pretty
a catcher.
Fair. Brad's going to need those wheels.
Well, it's a little heavy track here tonight, as you said. This game, of course, being played on the Sunday evening when we got a few thunder boomers rolling through and a tremendous weather across the province, and it fell here in Burlington. And as a result of that, the ground is wet, and as we said, a bit of a heavy track. Schulhauser chasing Brad Scott back to first base. Scott just in standing up. The other thing you wouldn't want to do, sliding tonight won't hurt you. Because it's going to be pretty soft, but
your cleaners will love you.
That's right. At the same time, you're going to get dirty. Schulhauser going into a stretch, winds, fires. Mike draws the bat back after faking a bunt, and then it's fired down by Pingle down to first baseman Kirby Connor, but Scott back in easily.
I don't think you're going to see too many long leadoffs just to start until people get a little accustomed to what they're playing in out here. The mound seems to be drying up a little bit from our vantage point up here in the booth. A couple hours ago, he needed hip waders.
No kidding. You can see they've done a lot of work around. There's a play right back in. A good pickup there by Connor as he short hopped that throw in from Schulhauser, and Scott was about 1.5 feet off the base.
Mm-hmm.
He hadn't even really good there. He takes a little bigger lead. There you can see him in the background there taking a lead. There's a swing and a miss. Evening the count now at 1-1. Nobody out. We're in the bottom of the first inning. The Lakeshore Men's Baseball League. This is the championship series. Best 2 out of 3. There's another throw over to first base. Mike, it seems, has been up to bat for quite a long time. Only 2 pitches thrown at him.
He leads the Mitchell team in batting with a .412 average.
It's not shabby.
Not too shabby.
Well, he has a tremendous ability to go down third base. There goes Scott now. Delayed steal, really. A throw down and in, and just got underneath the tag. And Scott really, I don't know whether it was supposed to be delayed steal or whether it just worked out that way, but he certainly didn't.
Trouble getting out of those blocks.
Yeah, he certainly, it wasn't the Roadrunner, but he certainly...
he got it done.
So Brad Scott with a stolen base. Goes into second base. The 2 umpires conferring. Paul and Mike now. Count of 2. 2 balls and a strike. There's Scott at second, leading off. Schulhauser. Ball behind his back. Now goes into the stretch. Winds and fires. There's a little bunt out towards Schulhauser. He looks him back and then fires on to first base. And a good play there by Schulhauser as he looked. Brad Scott back to second base and then fired out Paul Mike at first.
Heads-up play.
Scoring at 1-3, but what you don't see on the score sheet is the good play that he made in forcing Scott back to second base. If Brad Scott had taken off with the contact of the bat, he'd have been a dead duck at third.
He would have been for sure.
This brings up now the shortstop, also a left-handed batter, Steve McClure. Miles Fleming will move in on deck.
Steve is an excellent hitter. In the games leading up in the first playoff round, his team was down a run in about the 5th or 6th inning, and he dinged a grand slammer to win the game.
There you see a good close-up of Steve McClure. Under the lights here at Nelson Baseball Stadium tonight, and for the first time of any games we've done this year, many of which had been played in the light until about 8:30 or 9, but here in September, of course, dark a little earlier. Nothing going on. There's a ground ball hit out towards the shortstop. It's picked up by Fraser. He fires it on, and once again, a good play, by Kirby Connor, who was able to stay on the bag. And there's the advantage right there of a left-handed first baseman, because he was able to reach out into the outfield, pick up the ball, and keep that onto the base. And once again, Brad Scott doesn't go any farther than second base. He's still there. And so now with 2 out, and Scott was on first base. There's a good look at Cliff Fraser there. He made that great play. He got a tailor-made hop and fired McClure out. This is Miles Fleming now. Fleming is the second baseman. There's a ball inside. Fleming, of course, batting a cleanup spot, and justifiably so. Great power.
Made a couple of key plays in the 3rd game of the
There's
semis.
a ball head out towards my car out in the parking lot, and fortunately it doesn't get all that way. It does need a paint job, but the windows are all right. The oil's all right. It's the car that needs changing, but I don't think a baseball will do it. Strike 1.
Miles is a clutch player for this team.
There's a ball and a good pickup there from the catcher, Mike Pingle. Brad Scott down at second base with nobody out, and he's still there with 2 out. No score here in the bottom of the first inning. Mitchell Industries and Litson Sports. Once again, an opportunity for us to acknowledge the tremendous support of the sponsors. If it weren't for the sponsors, this league would not go. And a combination of support from Bomba, but more importantly, sports, or at least providing the tremendous job of the sponsorships. And that's what we've been asked to acknowledge, and we do so willingly.
You're right. If it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be here.
There's a ball right back at Schulhauser. Picks it up and fires less than a strike over to Kirby Connor, who steps on the bag. Mitchell Industries had no runs, no hits, no errors. There was a runner on base, and the score after one inning, Mitchell Industries nothing, and Litson Sports nothing.
Is Tim Krakowski, the center fielder, followed by Harry Barron and Terry Stapleton, the coach and manager of the team for Litson Sports.
Paul Mike, the pitcher now for the top of the second inning. Bob Hambrook, the catcher, gives the sign. Mike into the windup, and there's the first pitch of the second inning. It's high.
We got a couple of pitchers throwing gas tonight, Don.
Well, they're throwing strikes, too. They haven't been behind very much, although there was a walk in the first inning. There's a ball hit straight back over our heads. Interestingly enough, if a camera can pick up a close-up of our plate umpire tonight, you will notice that she has long hair. And there she is right there, and that is Lisa Turbot.
Doing a good job, too, Lisa.
And on the bases, John Turbot, her father at first base, and Brian Leonard, the base umpire at third. There's a ground ball hit right at Rick Davis. Davis, a long throw, and a good pickup there by Randy and Petro as Davis bounced a one-hopper to him. A good play there. An equally good pickup by Randy and Petro. Tim Krakowski, the first out, and this brings up Harry Barron.
Yeah, Harry's coming into a good position here. He's a good hitter. I think he'd like to see if he can't do something here.
Harry plays
a little bit of left field, a little bit of center field, a little bit of second. 345 hitter.
Gets a lot of walks. I'm sure he'd just like to get on. Certainly early in this game, you like to get on and cause problems.
Well, it's his third year in the league, so he knows his way around a little bit.
Paul Mike winds and fires. There's a ball hit right back at him. It goes off his glove. They're going to have to hustle, and third baseman Rick Davis can't get it. So Harry Barron, with a ball off the glove of Paul Mike, gets a base hit. And this will bring up the coach, the manager, the guy who provided us with much of the details tonight. He's also playing second base, number 9, Terry Stapleton. The first baseman, Dave Whale, will be on deck. So Harry Barron is on first base. Interesting to see what he will do.
Terry's a 355 hitter, good contact hitter.
During the season, of course, we had an opportunity to see all the teams. There's a little pop fly out into right field. And coming in and making the catch, Greg Cunningham. The ball gets away from him, and I think Cunningham may have been thinking of doubling up. Harry Barron at first base, rather than catching the ball first, Royston had to come over and recover the ball and fire it in. So Terry Stapleton gets on first base with an error to the right fielder, Reg Cunningham, and on the play, Harry Barron, who was sort of caught between first and second, was able to scoot into second base. So with only one out, we now have runners on first and second, and this is the first baseman, Dave Whale. Make that the second baseman, Dave Whale.
Dave's got some real good speed. He's a 310 hitter. Also Dave's third year in the league.
John Supple on deck, the right fielder. Dave McCrae, the only spare tonight for Litson, so they are playing just with 9 men, or make that 10 men.
Paul Mike seems to be settling down out there. Taking his time.
Bit of a change. Apologize for the delay. I don't know what you were talking about because I wasn't listening to you.
Well, and just lost another batter there.
Was that a strikeout? And
Dave
Whale struck out. And although the Bob Hambrook couldn't handle the pitch, with the runner on first base and less than 2 out, it is an automatic out. And the runners remain where they were. So Dave Whale becomes the third strikeout of Paul Mike, and this will bring up Mike Garrard, who has finally showing up. You pick up his number there?
Looks like number 12.
So
Mike's
John
fielder.
Supple, who played right field for just a couple minutes as the first inning, has pulled himself in favor of Gerard, who was late getting here. So we'll find out where Gerard, I guess they pronounce it, is going to go. There's a swing and miss. A ball, now 2 strikes. For the number 9 batter, Mike Gerard. Runners on first and second with 2 out here in the top of the second inning. Called strike 3. Good job of pitching there by Paul Mike. Striking out the last 2 batters with runners on first and second and only the 1 out. He struck out Whale and Gerard, and there you see the score after an inning and a half. Litson Sports, nothing in the Mitchell Industries, nothing. Well, there's a look at the some of the folks here watching this game tonight. And there's the leadoff batter, and that is John Royston.
Leading off for Mitchell Industries, he's going to be followed by Bob Hanbrook and Randy Ampetro.
And the pitcher, Rod Schulhauser. There's a swing. Even the count at 1 each.
John's got plenty of juice. I've seen him crack it out of this park on more than one occasion. Great baseball player. Good defensively and offensively.
Playing center field tonight for Mitchell Industries. There's a curveball that just misses inside.
And John's also played a little bit of shortstop. Got a nice bat, though.
There's a ball hit right back up through the middle for a base hit. Jim Krakowski for Litson picks it up and fires it into second baseman Dave Whale. And the first hit of the ball game for Mitchell Industries goes to John Royston.
And that's going to bring up Beef.
Is there any
Bob
truth
is
to the
aptly
rumor that you
nicknamed.
played for this team last year?
Beef is aptly nicknamed. He's got some real muscle, and I've also watched him wrestle that ball out of this park a couple of times.
There's a play over to first base, and Kirby Connor putting the tag on to John Royston, but too late. Schulhauser now keeping a look on. No pitches yet to Bob Hambrook. We should tell you that Stan Carey, who has worked so very well with us in the broadcasts that we've done here on the Lakeshore Men's Baseball League during this season. It's been a while since we've done a game. Actually, we haven't done a game since the latter part of July or early August. But Stan, of course, you know, not one of the younger guys in the team last year,
to say the least.
Yeah. Decided this year that it might be a good idea to become a broadcaster. And so, although he played with his team last year and was part of the championship team, he has, at least for a year, retired. Schulhauser.
A little safer up here.
Oh, well, at times. Although one game we did here this year, you recall the ball. We're sitting behind the screen, but the ball just cleared the screen in a perfect angle and came right in. There's a play over at first base again, and obviously they think that Royston is going to go.
I didn't have my glove that day, too.
No, and I'll tell you, that ball just missed the monitor, but more importantly, just missed me. You're going to replace the monitor. A few people wouldn't mind replacing me either. There's a ball inside, and it was fought off the hands of Hambrook. I think he's been up there watching the ball going over to first base enough times that he is a little anxious to get the bat swinging. Paul Mike comes walking in and has a chat with plate umpire Lisa Turbot. Paul Mike, of course, the pitcher, but also coaching down at third base tonight. Manager Bill Impetro is not here tonight. Maybe he's
going to be watching it on the tube.
Well, there's no question of that. He was suspended, but not for something that he did that was controversial or whatever. But there are some rules and regulations pertaining to this league of paying everybody, and he didn't do it. There's a called strike, and going down to second, and Royston is in easily. The throw from the catcher, Mike Pingo, was short. And so Royston going down to second base with a stolen base. That's the second stolen base of this ball game for Mitchell Industries.
Playing aggressively, and they've got to. That's do or die this game.
Hambrook now is the batter. Royston on second base. Hambrook now would love to get something going here for Mitchell. Dave Whale came in, and that ball inside.
Just turned into a beautiful night for a ball game, hasn't it?
A ball and 2 strikes now on the batter. Bob Hambrook looking in. It's one of the first right-handed batters that Mitchell Industries has sent up.
Yeah. Taking their time here.
Schulhauser keeping his eye towards second base to the runner Royston. Dave Whale starting to move across, and Royston hustling back as Schulhauser faked the throw. The shortstop is Cliff Fraser. You can just see him in the top left-hand corner. You can see Whale the top right-hand corner. You can see them both moving over a little bit. There's another ball inside.
Dusting them off pretty good tonight here, isn't he?
Evening a count at 2 each now. Randy and Petro, playing first base tonight, is on deck. Well, leaving the tremendous gap at second base. There's a swing and a miss. And with that, Bob Hambrook goes down swinging. I was waiting to see. Almost didn't look like he was walking back, but I did recall that he already had 2 strikes on him.
Yeah, only dusted him back a couple times good, too. Might have just shaken him up a little bit, but Beef will be back.
Randy and Petro now playing first base tonight is the batter. With John Royston on second base, Rod Schulhauser, the pitcher, Mike Pingle, a catcher. And he fakes a throw back to Cliff Fraser, who'd come in from the shortstop position.
Randy's a good contact hitter. He doesn't have a whole lot of speed, but he can get himself on base, and if he can get some bats working behind him, he can do all right.
There's a ground ball hit towards shortstop Cliff Fraser. Fraser up with it. A long throw, a short hop. It gets away, and coming in to score on the play, easily coming in to score, is John Royston. So Fraser coming up with the ball, but throwing it away.
And Randy picks up a ribby.
Well, it's not. It's an E6, and as a result, on the throw to first base,
oh, that's right, too.
We'll give Royston the run and the error. And you can, as you said, Petro is not exactly fleet of foot because he only stayed on first base.
Indeed.
Made no effort whatsoever to go to second base. Royston sliding into home and putting a lot of muck on home plate. And the umpire cleaning the plate off. And this will bring up Rick Davis, the third baseman, number 12, with 1 out, a run in here in the bottom of the second inning. Mitchell Industries lost the first game of this series 7-2. It's a best 2 out of 3. They'd love to extend it. Well, umpire Rod Schulhauser, if you take a look at his face, is not awfully endeared with the umpiring behind the plate tonight. That's the second time he's showing some disgust.
Indeed. Keeps throwing that little looker away.
There you see him, Petro, a small lead off first base. Schulhauser not really looking at him very closely. You can see him there, but he's going to come to the plate. There's a ground ball hit right back over, and it's going to be picked up, a tag and a throw to first base and a double play. A good play there by shortstop Cliff Fraser, as he is able to set up the double play. First of all, tagging him, Petro, in front of second base and then firing on to first base. Mitchell Industries picking up a run. They had a hit. There was an error. There was nobody left on base in the score after 2 complete innings. Now Mitchell Industries 1 and Litson Sports nothing.
Okay, leading off the top of the third, we're back up to the top of the order. We're leading off with Cliff Fraser, followed by Mike Pingle and Rod Schulhauser for Litson Sports.
Fraser struck out to lead off the game of the first inning.
No. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's like Grand Central Station up here tonight.
Indeed,
everybody walking up and
every 5
asking us
seconds,
questions. We don't.
They're trying to throw us out. That's all.
Don't necessarily. Well, it doesn't take much to do that. Paul Mike, the pitcher, winds and fires. A ball low. Randy and Petro is at first base. Miles Fleming at second. Steve McClure is at short, and Rich Davis at third base. There's a ground ball past Davis, and McClure out into left field. Brad Scott picking it up, and with that weak arm, fires it into to shortstop Steve McClure. And Cliff Fraser, who struck out in the first inning, gets a base hit to start the top of the third, and this will bring up the catcher, Mike Pingle. Pingle grounded out, second to first in the first inning.
Mike leads the team in walks and runs scored. He's batting .480. Not too shabby.
Paul Mike now into the windup, and then he goes over to first base, trying to catch Fraser. Randy Petro is the first baseman tonight.
TV screen doesn't pick it up too well, but it looks like Mike's playing with a gold-plated bat there. Maybe that's his lucky bat.
You can see at the top there a little lighter color. It may look yellow on the screen. There you see Paul Mike heading back towards first base and getting the throw back from the first baseman, Petro. This is the type of game where a run or two can make a big difference. There's a called strike. You notice as soon as Paul Mike strikes, throws the ball, as soon as he sees it isn't going to be hit, he immediately goes down so they can throw the ball over his head towards second base.
He's a heads-up player. He's been playing baseball all his life. Let's face it. He's played in this league a few years, but he came up through all the junior ranks and such, and he's been around a diamond for quite some time.
This league, of course, is sponsored by the Burlington Organized Minor Baseball Association, and it has no age limit on the top end. There are players here that are 19 and 20, and there are players here that are in their mid-30s and even older, and Paul Mike comes under that category. Good arm.
Yeah, there have been players in their 40s in this league.
Nothing wrong with being in your 40s. Time called, and on the play, heading down to second base was Cliff Fraser, and he is sent back. We'll pick up his helmet, which is on the mud halfway in between. I think that the batter, Mike Pingle, asked for time, and he got it.
Looks like we're about ready to go here.
2 balls and a strike now. Pingle.
Another one back over our heads.
Back over our heads. I wonder if the cameramen, we've talked about this before, that they're in a tough position because they're above the level of the screen, and that camera that you just saw there, and now we're looking from the outfield camera, which is to the left as we look at it of the flag. It's in left center field. I wonder if the guy upstairs on the camera, there's a play over at first base, and it gets away, and Fraser is going to go down to second base on the throw as Paul Mike fired the ball away.
If I were on that camera up in the roof, I think I'd be wanting to wear a mask and
well, I wondered, you just get all the
there.
equipment that the catcher's wearing, really.
Exactly. I've seen a lot of balls go up there.
Actually, maybe you should put that equipment on the camera and forget about the guy.
I wonder if he's listening upstairs. I don't hear any thumping on the roof or anything.
2-2, and there's a ball high. That'll bring the count to full now on Mike Pingle. Cliff Fraser down at second base as a result of an error to the pitcher, Paul Mike. There's a ball hit straight back over our heads. Count remains full. Mitchell Industries scoring a run in the bottom of the second inning. Lead this ball game 1-0. This is game 2 of the best of 3 Lakeshore Men's Baseball League Championship Series. The winner of this series is the champion of the league for 1987, and there's ball 4, and Pingle fires the bat.
Just about took off the head of the
You would
umpire
almost.
there.
I wonder if that was the first walk he got this year.
Might be his last.
And this will bring up the pitcher, Rod Schulhauser. Schulhauser had a base hit in the first inning. The first hit of the ball game for Litzen. Left-handed batter.
He's the race.
So Litzen, nobody out. Fraser on second, Pingle on first. A game that's as tight as this, would a bunt be in order? There's a ball hit out into center field. Coming in after it is McClure. He makes the catch, tagging and bluffing the plate at third, and McClure fires an air ball, but it goes all the way to third baseman Rick Davis, and Davis is able to keep the runner, Fraser, at second base, and so Schulhauser flies out to the center fielder, and this will bring up the First baseman Kirby Connor. Connor struck out to end the first inning. It seems like quite a while ago now.
Yeah, that was John Royston that made that play out on field there. McClure's
And giving
over
McClure
at,
a credit at shortstop.
Yeah.
Nice.
John's got a heck of an arm on him. He can really heave it.
He just kind of threw an air ball up there. I think he knew that Fraser wasn't going to go. Fraser bluffed going, but and you know something, with the height of that throw, he probably would have made it because it wasn't on line.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, hindsight is a marvelous teacher. There's a swing and a miss, partial swing, but called strike by plate umpire Lisa Turbot. A rather cool but pleasant night here at Nelson Baseball Stadium in Burlington.
Lovely night. Hardly a breeze. The flag is
There's
fluttering,
a little blooper hit right at the second baseman, Miles Fleming, and on the play, Cliff Fraser had gone from second, and an easy double play as Fleming flips it over to Steve McClure. So Litson Sports had one base hit. They had a walk, no runs. And after 2.5, it's still Mitchell Industries 1 and Litson Sports nothing. Yeah.
Okay, leading off the bottom of the third for Mitchell Industries is the right fielder, Reg Cunningham. He's going to be followed by Brad Scott and Paul Mike in a good tight ball game, Don.
Indeed it is. Mitchell Industries are running the bottom of the second, lead this game 1-0. Reg Cunningham, the 9th man in the order, wears number 14. So he'll be facing the pitcher Rod Schulhauser for the first time in this ball game. Mitchell Industries desperately needs a win tonight to prolong their season. A loss, and it is all over. There's a little tap over into the fan area, just to the right row back of first base, and a foul ball.
And a good reason for the fans to keep their eye on the ball.
And that ball was well outside. Schulhauser not liking that ball and asking for an exchange. That's what you need out there. The pitcher's mound's a critic.
Reg got around on it a little bit late and tipped it right over there.
So a strike now, Schulhauser. There's a called strike 2 in the inside corner. Mike Pingle is the catcher. Kirby Connor, Dale Whale, Cliff Fraser, and Terry Stapleton from first to third defensively for Litson. There's a ball just inside, and whoa, once again, that ball was close. And Schulhauser,
like it got the inside corner to
Schulhauser, well, it may have curved after the plate, and sometimes you can't really tell.
That's right, not from up here.
Far be it from us to be critical. A nice night here now. A couple of hours ago, we had a thunderous downpour. The wind has appeared to switch to the north. It's blowing from left to right. The wind not a factor in this ball game, really. It may affect a hard pulled ball. There's called strike 3, and Reg Cunningham goes down with the bat on his shoulder to begin the top of the third inning, bottom of the third inning for Mitchell Industries. And this brings up the leadoff man for Mitchell, the left fielder Brad Scott, who drew a base on balls in the first inning. Paul Mike will be on deck. Scott drew a base on balls and stole second base in the first inning and stayed there. There's a changeup, just misses outside. Good pitch there by Schulhauser. Maybe a little more effective with 2 strikes than no strikes, because Scott, of course, trying to draw a base on balls, and he's not going to go after anything that...
No, he's just going to take his time. Play it
sure.
cagey. Kidder's no fool. That's another one of his nicknames. Brad's got more nicknames than anybody I know.
I don't know who provided us with the stats for this ball team, but he's in his 3rd year. There's a called strike.
Yeah, and he's been on a championship team every year. He played for Montreal Textiles his first year. They won the championship. He played for Mitchell last year, and they won it, and here he is in the championship game again.
There's a ball high.
Says a little something about him.
That does indeed. It does indeed. The guys who are playing on his team are good players. That's what it says. I don't... Of course, Brad Scott, in case you just joined us, one of the sports producers for CableNet. There's a called strike 2. Full count now. Expediency has us here tonight.
Yes,
that's right. We wanted to see Brad Scott play.
That's right.
There's a swinging miss. That would have been ball 4, because that ball was well outside, and Brad Scott becomes the second strikeout victim of pitcher Rod Schulhauser in this 3rd inning. And this will bring up Paul Mike now with 2 out. Mike grounded out to the pitcher in the bottom of the 1st inning. See, it was a bunt. He attempted to move Scott, who had gotten to second base, but to no avail. Mike, the pitcher. So it's pitcher versus pitcher here in the bottom of the third inning. Ball outside.
Punker bunted earlier on, as you say, but he's also got a real pair of arms on him, and he's put it out of here a couple of times.
There's an attempt at that now with a
swing.
swinging strike, and that ball seemed to fall off the table. Schulhauser pitches well to left-handed batters, and it isn't that common.
He's got some good stuff tonight. Very intense, as I'd said earlier.
There's a foul.
He wants to win, and he wants to win tonight.
Well, certainly they'll have an opportunity if they win tonight to play another game in this series.
Mitchell, yeah.
Blitzen up 1-0 in this best of 3. There's a ball outside. Mitchell leading this ball game 1-0. But it's still early. It's a 7-inning ball game.
Doesn't want to be throwing any cookies here. And there it is.
There's a ball hit out into right field. Mike Gerard moving in under it. He makes the catch to retire the side. No runs, no hits, no errors. Mitchell Industries still leading this ball game after 2.5 innings by a score of 1-0.
Okay, leading off the 4th inning, we've got the center fielder for Litson Sports, Tim Krakowski, and he's going to be followed by the right fielder, Harry Barron, and the coach-manager, Terry Stapleton.
Man, a good play there, Krakowski. A ground ball to Steve McClure, a one-hopper as he picked it up and fired it out to Randy and Petro for the first out, a quick first out here in the 4th. As I ended the last inning, I said it was at the after 2.5, and it actually should have been after 3 complete. I was corrected very quickly by some of the rookies in the truck.
The game is moving along fairly quickly here tonight.
Well, the way it's going right now, and the last game was 7-2, and you sometimes, you're just sort of waiting for Litson Sports to start getting the bats going. As Harry Barron, who had a single the last time up, or his first time up in this ball game, is the batter, left-handed batter. Paul Mike winds and fires a ball inside.
Well, with all due respect to the bats of Litson Sports, and they do indeed demand respect, Punker is definitely one of the better pitchers in this league.
And that's Paul Mike, of course.
Yeah, and they're going to have to go some to shake him up.
Remember a couple of weeks ago when the Blue Jays, the game they were playing, I think it may have been with Texas, I'm not sure exactly, they gave up a run in the first inning, and it was 1-0, and that was the way it ended.
Really?
And so, it's with the, I said this to you before the game started, that what we've done is that all of the teams have been weeded down, and now we're down to allegedly the 2 best teams, the ones with the 2 best talents, and so you have to expect basically tight scoring games.
They're not all going to be blowouts, that's for sure.
There's a ground ball hit out towards the second baseman, Miles Fleming. A kindly hop, and he picks it up and sort of bloops it on to Randy and Petro at first base, and that's the second out of the ball game, of the inning rather. And this will bring up the coach, the manager, Terry Stapleton. Stapleton reached base on an error to the right fielder the last time up. Ended up on first base. That was in the second inning. There you see him there, number 9, Terry Stapleton. A good look at the back of Paul Mike as he winds and fires a slow changeup on the inside. The wind continuing to blow from left to right. The flag standing almost straight out. We're up in the booth and don't feel the breeze up here. There's a hard hit ball, and that's going to be out of play. Just a loud strike, I think they call that, Stan.
Yeah, 30 feet to the right.
Well, 30 feet to the right, it probably would have been caught. Eating a count at 1 each. Catcher Bob Hambrook handing the bat back to Harry Barron. As we said, a lot of these guys know each other. They've played with each other other years and have played against each other.
Well, each team is allowed to protect a half a dozen or so players, which they do. And then the rest of the players go into an open pool, and they're drafted every year. So it allows for a little bit of parity in the league.
The obvious question is, Stan, there's a swing and a miss. Well, ball on 2 strikes. Now, the obvious question is that with the league this year and with the success of the league, Are there going to be more teams next year? I guess
that would be my gut feel.
Bomba's going to obviously have to address that situation, but it costs money to field other teams, and at the same time, a lot of guys want to play. So
it's not cheap to play in this league, though, either. These players, each of them, coughed up $100 to play in this league.
There's a swing and a miss, strike three. Terry Stableman goes down. 3 up, 3 down for Litson Sports here in the top of the 4th inning after 3.5. That is correct. After 3.5. Mitchell Industries, by virtue of that run in the 2nd inning, still lead this game 1-0.
Okay, leading off for Mitchell Industries is Steve McClure. Steve is their shortstop, big power hitter. He's going to be followed by Miles Fleming and John Royston, the center fielder.
McClure grounded out short to first in the 1st inning. I'm trying to take a look and see where we are now. We are indeed in the bottom of the 4th inning. Mitchell Industries scored a run in the 2nd, and that's it. And
hit batter.
McClure is hit on the shoulder.
Takes one for the team. Little known fact, Steve is the owner of Mitchell Industries.
Well, there's no question that he was hit by the pitch, and let's wait and see right now what's going to happen.
Big conference.
Well, we were in a position to see that ball hitting Steve McClure.
He made a legitimate effort to get out of the way.
Well, I think he did at first. He almost started to swing, and then he realized it was coming in on him. Didn't have time to bail out. And as a result of that, they are going to send McClure down to first base, though that is the right call. And that ball hit him on the shoulder. There was no argument. Maybe there wasn't an argument of whether the ball hit him, but whether there was an effort to get out of the way or did he turn it in. But there's certainly, from our vantage point, that ball hit him pretty well. And so Steve McClure goes down to first base to lead off the 4th inning for Mitchell. Lisa Turbot having a discussion with Rod Schulhauser. And you can see him talking there now to umpire Lisa Turbot. Schulhauser has shown his disgust on more than one occasion with some of the balls and strikes calls.
No kidding.
Interestingly enough, the only run of this game came in a throwing error. Now there we see Miles Fleming. Fleming is the 2nd baseman tonight, and he grounded out pitcher to first the last time up. So Steve McClure on, having been hit by the pitch. And he gets a very short lead, a lead of about a yardstick and a foot. There's a ball inside. It gets away from the catcher, and drilling down to second base easily is Steve McClure. Mike Pingle didn't have an arm long enough to grab that one, and Miles Fleming did a good job of just bailing out of there.
Schulhauser looks like he's getting a little rattled out there.
This is game 2 of the best of 3 Lakeshore Men's Baseball League Championship Series. Litson won the first game 7-2 earlier in the week. This is game 2, and the winner of if it is Litson, the season is over for both teams, and Litson are the champions. If Mitchell Industries can win tonight, then it'll create the need for a 3rd game next week. There's ball 2. There's nobody out. We're in the bottom of the 4th inning.
Close game. Tensions are running high out there.
John Royston, who scored the run in this ball game, is on deck. The center fielder. There's a swing and a miss. A good cut there by Fleming.
He wanted all of it.
Well, during part of the last intermission, we complained a little bit about the fact that although it's not exactly the warmest night of the year, it is a little tiny bit dry up here, and we want to thank the CableNet people for providing us some apple
liquid refreshment. How nice.
Dan Danciu, one of the CableNet producers and also the guy responsible for the mobile unit, was kind enough to play the runner tonight. He also fixed our monitor, and now we're going to see the same colors that you are. There's a ground ball hit right at the first baseman, Kirby O'Connor. Kirby O'Connor limps over to first base and touches the bag. And on the play, a good play there by Fleming, as he was able to hit the ball to the right side of the infield, moving Royston over to third base. So Fleming gives himself up on a 3 unassisted. And this will bring up John Royston. Royston had a base hit and scored the only run of this ball game in the second inning. He also had a stolen base in that second inning, which contributed even more so to the go-ahead run. There you see him there, number 9, John Royston.
The consummate clutch player. He was a clutch player last year, the year before that, and he's doing it again this year.
Obviously, the CableNet people, when they come prepared for a mobile broadcast like this, do indeed come prepared.
Indeed they do. And, you know, we shouldn't underestimate them either. You know, not too many people realize.
There's a ground ball, base hit. Royston hits a ball to left field, where Harry Barron picks it up and fires it back in and on the play. Steve McClure easily comes in to score the second Mitchell run. So Royston, not a bad night, as he has an RBI.
Comes through in the clutch.
And a single that created the first run.
I was about to say there, Dan, and all the crew down at the CableNet truck there, not too many people realize it, but these folks are out here like 2 or 3 hours ahead of game time setting up these cameras and such, and indeed they're here for a couple hours afterwards tearing it all down. They go to a lot of work to put on a real good show for the folks, and we appreciate it, and I'm sure the folks.
Well, nice to have Graham out of Oakville tonight, too, doing the producing of this broadcast. And Graham, through the headset, you might tell me how many people are involved right now working on this broadcast, exclusive of the two of us. Take off your shoes. Yeah. 6 or 7 people involved in the production of this broadcast, exclusive of Stan and myself. There's going down to second base, attempting to steal and going in easily. I say easily. John Royston went in. I'm not awfully certain how easy it was. It almost appeared
certain at all.
Yeah, he may have. It appeared that throw was going to be short, and it really was short of the bag. But the second baseman, Dave Whale, appeared to put the tag onto the back of Royston. So Royston has really not had a bad night at all. He had a single and a stolen base in the second inning, scored the first Mitchell run. He had a single, an RBI single to plate McClure here in the fourth for the second Mitchell run, and a stolen base. So that's 2 singles, 2 stolen bases, and a run scored and an RBI. So we don't have the player of the game. And there's a call, strike 3 to Hambrook. During his bat, Royston goes down to second base. And that is the second out of the inning, and this will bring up Randy and Petro. Randy reached first on an error in the second inning. A ground ball hit to the shortstop, Cliff Fraser, and on that play, Fraser fired the ball away from first baseman Kirby Connor. And Royston, who had singled and stolen second on second base at the time, was able to come all the way around and score the first run for Mitchell. There's a swing and a miss. Randy, who pitched the last game, losing pitcher in that last game, 7-2, is playing first base tonight. As you heard, he doesn't have what you'd classify as blazing speed, but he does get the bat.
No, he's a heads-up player, though.
And he's a good ball player. He's been playing baseball a long time. Of course, his father has been very much involved in minor ball in Burlington for a lot of years.
Indeed, he coaches this team.
The rules of this league say everybody must play at least 3 innings, and I assume that they are waived during the playoffs. Because obviously one of the players for Litzen, was pulled early in this game and didn't play 3 innings. And I'm not certain how those go. But anyway, Randy and Petro strikes out, but not before Mitchell Industries is able to pick up a run and a hit. No errors. There was a runner left on base, and the score after 4 complete innings of play. Now Mitchell Industries leading this ball game by a score of 2-0.
Okay, leading off for Litzen Sports, we're going to have Dave Whale, number 5. He's going to be followed by number 11, Dave McCrae, and then followed by, at the top of the order, Cliff Fraser.
Whale struck out in the second inning for Litzen Sports. Litzen, who scored 7 runs in the last game, scoreless so far into the 5th inning, and this ball game is moving right along. I'd like to remind you that Burlington Cougar Hockey and Junior B Hockey on CableNet Sports begins with the first broadcast of the year on Friday the 25th of September as the CableNet crew moves into the new arena. for a delayed broadcast, about an hour delay broadcast on the Friday night. Mike Spicer and I will be along with the rest of the CableNet crew to bring you that game between the Burlington Cougars and the Oakville Blades. There's a ball hit right back at Paul Mike, who picks it up and fires it over to first baseman Randy Impetro for the first out of this 5th inning. And this will bring up Dave McCrae. McCrae is now batting for Mike Gerard. Number 11, Dave McCrae. Certainly got some size to him. Get the bat on the ball.
Indeed he has.
But then, of course, I've got that similar size, and that doesn't...
See, Dave's using that gold-plated bat as well, eh?
Left-handed batter. Mitchell a run in the 2nd, a run in the 4th. Lead this ball game 2-0. McCrae swings and misses. Cliff Fraser, the leadoff man, will bat 3rd in this inning for Litson Sports. Litson in the purple and gray, if you want to call it that, or mauve and gray, or chartreuse. And it's the same color as McMaster University. Let's put it that way.
The Marauders.
And Mitchell Industries, of course, in the blue and white. Paul Mike winds and throws high. 9th man of the order, and certainly Paul Mike doesn't want to lose this man right here.
Looking a little muddy down there at home plate.
Yeah, you can see it. It is a little tough to get your feet. I wouldn't expect to see a home run tonight. There's a swing and a miss. Strike 2. That'll even the count now at 2-2. Make that full count now as the plate umpire Lisa Turbot indicates to us full count. There's a called strike 3. And with that, Dave McCrae makes the long and lonesome walk back to the bench. And this will bring up the shortstop, Cliff Fraser. Cliff had a base hit in the 3rd inning. He struck out in the 1st. Got to second base in the 3rd inning.
They're doing a lot of mud kicking down there. As you say, it'd be hard to get a good stance, you know, down there when you're at that plate.
Fraser was caught on the back end of a double play to end the 3rd inning. Mitchell had runners on 1st and 2nd with nobody out. In the 3rd, it looked like they had something going. They were behind 1-0 at the time. They now trail 2-0. It's a ball low. 2 balls, no strikes to Cliff Fraser. This is a 7-inning ball game. The Lakeshore Men's Baseball League. This is the championship series. Litson won the first game 7-2.
Mitchell trying hard to prolong it here. Doing a good job so far.
Oh, we hope we have the opportunity this year to get to the banquet.
Indeed. Do you know when that's going to be?
I haven't heard yet when it's going to be. There's a high fly ball into left field. Backing up is Brad Scott against just about the warning track. And he catches the ball off the bat of Fraser for the 3rd out. And that's one of the best hit balls tonight. But Litson now, after 4.5 innings, still trail this ball game by a score of 2-0.
A heart attack.
Leading off the bottom of the 5th for Mitchell Industries is Rick Davis. He's going to be followed by Tom Manny, who's a substitute for Reg Cunningham. And then our producer, Brad Scott's going to be popping in there.
Davis grounded into a double play in the 2nd inning, his only time up. Indication now when you're batting in the 2nd and not batting till the 5th how fast this game is really going. Not a lot of base runners.
No, a lot of 3 up, 3 down.
There's a little roller out to Schulhauser. He picks it up and fires it on to Kirby Connor at first base for the 1st out. I was just sitting there counting the base hits for Mitchell Industries. They had a runner on base in the 1st inning, a base on balls. They had a base hit and a run scored in the 2nd, thanks to an error, really. And so there was a hit in the 2nd, nothing in the 3rd, and they had a hit in the 4th when they scored their run. So they have 2 hits tonight, and John Royston has them both. So Schulhauser pitching a great game. He's behind 2-0, and a combination of an error and a couple of stolen bases have seen 2 runs be scored. This is Manny. His first time up, he swings and misses, goes after a ball outside.
Manny's the right fielder. We don't have too much of a book on him.
I'd like to remind you that the BOMA, that's the Burlington Organized Minor Baseball Association annual meeting, will take place on September the 29th. That's Tuesday, September the 29th. I assume it's a 7:30 start, and it will be at the Pine Center at the Guelph. That's on the Guelph line, just above New Street. It's on the west side of the Guelph line, just above New Street. Any persons interested in minor ball in Burlington, whether it be this league or any of the other minor leagues, certainly welcome to attend. A roster of officers, of course, selected at that meeting. So an opportunity for you to partake in the organization of the Burlington Organized Minor Baseball Association. The annual meeting, September the 29th, 7:30 at the Pine Center on the Guelph line.
Don't miss it, folks. It's going to be a good one. Schulhauser, if anything, seems to be throwing them even faster. You noticed? He's just putting some heat on them.
There's a ball outside. I didn't catch the count there. Plate umpire Lisa Turbot. There's a ground ball hit back towards Cliff Fraser. He picks it up, fires it. A good throw on to first base to Kirby Connor. And that's the second out of the inning as Manny grounds out 6-3. And this will bring up Brad Scott. Scott drew a base on balls, got as far as second base with a stolen base in the first inning, and then struck out in the third. Mitchell Industries up 2-0. Good close-up of Brad Scott, and it is his voice that I often hear. You don't during a lot of these sports broadcasts. He's the guy that tells everybody what to do.
Sits down.
It's a called strike. In the football season, I was up today watching some of the Burlington Minor Football Association games. I have a son who plays for one of the teams, and I was up there watching today, and up at Palmer Park, part of Pearson High School, and it is indeed football season, although a warm, muggy day for football today.
Yeah.
There's a ball inside. 2 balls, 2 strikes now to Brad Scott with 2 out here in the bottom of the 5th inning. Rod Schulhauser, a 2-hitter, but behind 2-0. The little ground ball hit at Fraser. It goes off Fraser's foot, bounces up in the air, and Brad Scott heads down onto first base. And even being very nice, we'll have to mark that as an E6 because it seems somewhat routine. We have no official scorer here, and you're not arguing.
We're doing the best we can.
You're not arguing with that particular
I'm not arguing
call.
with that at all. I wouldn't touch it.
Like, there's no way that I'm going to give Brad Scott a base hit anyway. He'd have to hit one over the fence. And we know with Brad that isn't possible. This is Paul Mike. Paul, the pitcher. Give an opportunity in a minute to tell you how he's doing on the pitching mound. There's Brad Scott. Ball outside. I was going to say there's Brad Scott making an attempt to go to second base, but he turned back. In this game so far, Paul Mike is 0 for 2. He flied out to right field and grounded out to the pitcher.
Well, the kidder wants to keep Schulhauser, keep him on a stage. Just lead out there a step or two.
He's
or
got a
three
good
or
lead.
four.
Oh,
He dropped
I'll tell you something right there. If Kirby Connor held onto that ball, Brad Scott was on his way back to the dugout.
You got it. He was done like a barbecued
He
steak.
had a real good lead. Would make Lloyd Mosby proud, that lead. Although I'm sure the return trip wasn't all that good. Brad dove back into the bag and bounced about a foot before or 2 feet before the bag, but Connor just couldn't hold the throw, which was low.
Well, Wright City Laundry really appreciates
Yeah,
plays like that.
right. It's an unpaid political announcement. Dave Whale is the second baseman. Cliff Fraser at short. There's a ball outside again, and Schulhauser, it almost appears that he's trying to keep the ball out and high in an attempt to give Mike Pingle, the catcher, a good opportunity to throw down. The left-handed batter, Paul Mike. stands in.
Well, they know Brad's got wheels, and they know he's just as likely as not to go, so wouldn't surprise me to see
He
a pitch
stays,
out
and
at
there's
some
a
point.
little roller down to the pitcher, who picks it up, Schulhauser, and then he just shovels it over to first baseman Kirby Connor for the third out of this inning. No runs for Mitchell Industries. No hits. There was an error, one left. After 5 complete innings of play now, it's Mitchell Industries still leading this ball game by a score of 2-0.
Okay, leading off for Litzen Sports is Mike Pingle, who had a base on balls in the last inning. He's going to be followed by Rod Schulhauser and Kirby Connor. Don, in what is still a tight game.
Indeed, 2-0 still for Mitchell Industries. Litzen Sports 7 runs in the first game, winning 7-2. Pingle, as you said, a base on balls. He also grounded out to the second baseman, which he may do again as Miles Fleming picks it up and flips it on to Randy Impetro. So for the second time in this game, Pingle grounds out 4-3. I don't know whether to say grounds out or grinds out. It's hard. Well, let's take a minute now, and I'll let you give the next batter up as I sit here and count the base hits that Litzen Sports has had.
And that's going to bring up Rod Schulhauser, the franchise.
Schulhauser flied out to center field in the third inning. Had a base hit in the first inning. There's a ball hit sharply right at the shortstop and through the legs of shortstop Steve McClure. And Schulhauser, who hit the ball hard, but because the ball was hit right in through the legs of the shortstop Steve McClure, we have no option, of course, as the official score, but to
That's right.
give
him that big E.
Give an E6. Litzen Sports had a hit in the first inning. They also had a hit in the second, a hit in the third, nothing in the fourth, and nothing in the fifth. So they've had 3 hits. So although they're trailing this game 2-0, they have out-hit Mitchell by a whopping 3 hits to 2.
Big stuff. Big stuff. It was a tough break on Steve McClure out there. Steve is also a football franchise owner, owns a club called the Peppers. Didn't do too well last year, but had a good draft this year. He's looking to have a big season, he tells me.
Paul Mike now into the stretch. Winds. This is Kirby Connor, the first baseman. And going down to second easily with not even a throw down as Hambrook decides to hold on to the ball is Schulhauser. So we give him a stolen base. Kirby Connor struck out and lined to second baseman Miles Fleming, who in turn doubled up Cliff Fraser in the third inning to take Litzen out of a big inning. They had runners on first and second and nobody out, and Connor lined into that double play to end the third inning. So he is officially 0 for 2 tonight, as most of them are. There's a swing and a attempted hold up, but he didn't do it very well.
Punker's been doing a pretty good job of keeping ahead of the batters tonight. That's what you've got to do to win in this or any other league.
Stan O'Carey, of course, is quite familiar with a lot of these players, and he'll give interesting names and little names that they all have. I'm sure that
everybody's got a nickname.
Everybody's
right?
got
Everybody's
a nickname,
got a
yeah.
nickname. Sure.
Half the time I don't know who you're talking about. But I know you are talking about the pitcher Paul Mike, who winds and fires. There's a blooper just back of third base, and chasing after it and dropping the ball, but it's foul, was Rick Davis. And that ball was fairly close to being fair, but it was fouled by about a foot, as Rick Davis unable to field the ball. You wonder if he may have been affected a little by the lights there. It's not easy to go after a ball with these lights.
I was just going to say he got turned around a little bit, and indeed from the angle that ball was coming down, I'm sure he was looking right smack into them. It's pretty easy to lose it up there.
We won't give him an error. We'll be magnanimous. We've already allotted 1 this inning so far. There's a ground ball hit right at Davis. He picks it up, looks and fires, and the ball gets away.
That's trouble.
And going down to second base is Connor, and coming in to score the first run of the game for Litzen Sports is Rod Schulhauser. So Schulhauser getting on by an error, coming in to score on an error. An error to the third baseman, Rick Davis. And Kirby Connor on the play ends up on second base. And so Litzen Sports picks up their first run of this ball game.
And none too soon.
And this will bring up Tim Krakowski. Krakowski has grounded out to third and short in his 2 trips to the plate. Harry Barron on deck. Only one out. The tying run is on second base for Litzen. There's a swing and a miss. That ball gets away. But Bob Hambrook is able to get onto it. What I'm pleased to see is that not everybody on the field has a lot of hair.
I noticed Bob Hambrook there starting to part his with a face cloth.
Yeah, right. Then there's you and I. Here we are, we're both in our 40s, and some of these guys, we got more hair than they've got.
Really?
Let's not get into personalities here. I get accused of Grecian formula all the time.
I'm very fortunate in my family. My dad's 84, and he's still got a full head of hair, so I might just luck out here,
Well, it's interesting that I have a brother who's 4 years older than I am. Teacher at Aldershot High School, as a matter of fact, and he doesn't have a whole lot of hair at all. There's a ball straight up the gap. Calling for it is the shortstop, Steve McClure, under it, and he's got it for the second out. Kirby Connor is going to be forced to stay at second base. And this will bring up Harry Barron. Harry had a base hit in the first inning and grounded out second to first in the... Take that, a hit in the second, grounded out second to first in the fourth inning. He'd love to get a base hit right here. Kirby Connor on second base, the possible tying run out there. Litzen Sports, a run here, trails this game 2-1. There's a ball up high. Paul Mike now having to bear down. Bob Hambrook, the catcher. In the upper right-hand corner there, you see second baseman Miles Fleming. There you see leading off at second base is Kirby Connor, and a called strike to Harry Barron. Mike Wines fires. There's a ground ball hit to just foul past third baseman Randy Impetro down towards right field. That ball is basically in play out there. It'd probably be a good idea if they went and got it. Well, it's incredible.
Really?
You recall one of the first games we did early in July? You remember it was difficult to tell the color of the grass from the skinned infield. There's a ground ball hit right at Randy Impetro. He picks it up easily and steps on the bag to retire the side as Barron grounds out, as I said it, to 3 unassisted. Litzen picking up a run on no hits. There were 2 errors. There was a runner left on base. And so the score after 5.5 innings of play now, Mitchell Industries 2 and Litzen Sports 1.
Steve McClure coming up. Steve McClure coming up here for Mitchell Industries. He's going to be followed by Miles Fleming and John Royston. Steve's the shortstop. Big hitter for this team. Clutch hitter.
First inning, he grounded out to the shortstop. In the fourth inning, he was hit by a pitch and eventually came around to score Mitchell's second run, and it's a big run now as they lead by a score of 2-1.
He'd love to connect here.
Rod Schulhauser winds and fires, and there's a fly ball hit foul off to the left.
Steve gives it the big eye, settles in.
So McClure 0 for 1. The ball just misses outside. Mitchell Industries has a grand total of 2 hits, and they have both resulted in runs being scored. There's a number 3 out into left field, and that may make it all the way to the fence.
It's going for at least 2.
McClure heading down into second base, standing up with a double to lead off the bottom of the 6th inning. And as I said to Stan Carey just before we came back to you for the start of this inning, that Mitchell Industries would love this to be their last bats.
They certainly would. Steve is a real intense guy. He just loves the game. You'd think he played for the Jays. He gets so vociferous. He's so keen on playing the game and indeed winning. He's also, as I mentioned earlier, the sponsor. He owns Mitchell Industries along with his brother. They're basically a local manufacturer of replacement locker parts for locker doors and such. And the schools, they've supported Bomba now for 4 years. I think 2 years they supported the Tyke League. In the last 2 years, they've been involved with this league.
This is Miles Fleming, number 3. Fleming playing second base tonight. Grounded out to the pitcher in the first inning and to the first baseman unassisted in the 4th. And he hits the ball just off to our right. If that had been a little closer, that might have done a cameraman job.
Yeah. For those of you in the audience, we're a little thumping up top here.
The cameraman is just above our heads. We hope that the roof, well, there's some 2x8s above our head. I think we should be all right.
I hope so. Maybe not.
There's a bunt all laid down. A good attempted bunt there by Fleming. The ball just rolling foul. In case you've just joined us, this is the bottom of the 6th inning of Game 2 of the Lakeshore Men's Baseball League. That's the championship series, the best 2 out of 3. Litson Sports leads this series 1-0 by virtue of winning the other night 7-2. There's a swing and a miss for strike 3, and Miles Fleming goes down. Mitchell Industries needing a win tonight
to stay alive here this year. This is it. This is what it all comes down to.
A little exchange of balls between Schulhauser and Mike Pingle. And John Royston, who has 2 base hits tonight. Steve McClure has the other one for Mitchell Industries. In the 2nd inning, Royston singled, stole second. Came in to score on a throwing error for the first run. In the 4th inning, his single knocked in Steve McClure, who had been on second base as a result of being hit by a pitch. Actually, he had gone to third. Play at second, and the ball was thrown high as Dave Whale came back in behind Steve McClure. McClure going in his tummy.
They all want to keep the cleaners in business.
That's
tonight.
right. Well, early this afternoon, this game, of course, being played in the evening. Earlier this afternoon, there was a major rainfall here in Burlington, and I'm sure very much it was other places, too. And this field looked like a moose marsh about 8 o'clock.
Well, indeed, there was a considerable question as to whether they'd get the game off. They had to do a little bit of grooming out there to get things in shape.
John Royston, the center fielder, wears number 9. Rod Schulhauser has given up his 3rd hit of the ball game in this inning. Steve McClure on second with a big run. There's a little tapper out into left field. Harry Barron is going to pick it up, but coming in to score is McClure. And McClure gets the 3rd run for Mitchell Industries, and in the bottom of the 6th inning in a 7-inning ball game, that gives Mitchell a 3-1 lead, and that, Stan, is a big hit for Royston,
who again is not unaccustomed to such antics. John, as you know, we've talked about it so many times, but John is such a clutch player, and he proved it once again right there.
Well, that's the 2nd RBI of this game. He scored the 1st run and has knocked in the other 2. In addition to that, he has 2 stolen bases, and he just might well do it again. Bob Hambrook now was struck out twice, and there's a called strike.
Yeah, you got to say John's a good candidate for game MVP.
There's no argument about that at all. Paul Mike has done a good job, too, in pitching, but I think offensively, Mitchell needed some runs, and they were able to get them.
Yeah.
There's a foul ball back as going down to second base was John Royston as he tried to chalk up his 3rd stolen base of this night. He had a good jump, but Hambrook fouled it back.
Thank goodness for the screen, eh, Don?
A couple of times now that the screen has saved us.
They're trying to keep us awake. Bob Hambrook, the catcher.
Rod Schulhauser, the pitcher, throwing to the Mitchell Industry catcher, Bob Hambrook. Ball is high and outside. A ball and 2 strikes to Hambrook, with 2 big Ks so far on the score sheet tonight. Royston, a little lead, and play over to first base. And that was closer than it might have well have been.
Mm-hmm.
Schulhauser dropped his back foot off the rubber first before he threw over instead of throwing. And there you see him there. That camera in left center field. Once again, you can see he drops that back foot off the rubber.
Yeah.
Before he throws. You can see Royston now leading off First baseman Kirby Connor giving the target. Schulhauser winds, fires, and there's a ball hit out into center field. And chasing in after it and making the catch is Krakowski for the second out of this ball game, or the sixth inning for Mitchell. And this will bring up first baseman Randy Impetro. Impetro reached first in the second inning on an error to the shortstop Cliff Fraser, and on that throwing error, John Royston came in to score the first run of this ball game. And then in the fourth inning, he struck out. So 2 out now. Royston on second base. Mitchell a run in here in the sixth. They lead by 2, 3-1. And Litzen, an opportunity in the top of the seventh to try to get back into this ball game. Failing that, this series will go to a third and sudden death game. And Litzen will bring up the bottom 3 men in their order: Terry Stapleton, Dave Whale, and Dave McCrae. There's Royston now heading down to second. The throw, and Royston is in again. It's not a bad night, you know, when you really look about it. I'm keeping little notes here.
John's playing extremely well tonight.
All my notes indicate is a base hit in the second, a base hit and an RBI in the fourth, a base hit and an RBI in the sixth, and a stolen base in the second, fourth, and sixth, and a run scored in the second. It's a career for some people.
Indeed it is.
Petro swings and misses, and we'll wait for the umpire to give us the signal. 1 ball, 1 strike. And Petro now would love to get a base hit and plate. Royston. There you see Royston at second base. Schulhauser into a stretch. Throws a ball low. And there was an attempted pickoff at second base as Royston got a little, sort of got caught in no man's land there, but he was able to get back because the throw from the catcher, Mike Pingo, was high. Had the throw been on the bag, he was done like dinner.
He was. Everybody tightening up a little bit out there now. Nobody wants to give this thing away. It's still pretty close yet. Anything can happen.
There's a one hopper and a good play by Pingle as Impetro draws ball 4, and it just appeared that Schulhauser reared back and fired. So that'll put Royston on second and Petro on first, and this will bring up the third baseman Rick Davis, who hit into a double play in the second and grounded out to the pitcher in the 5th inning. So he's 0 for 2. But when you consider the fact that Mitchell Industries has only had 4 hits, and 2 of those have come in this 6th inning when they've scored an insurance run,
they've made them count.
Rick Davis. Schulhauser is struggling now. You can see that he's aiming the ball. He's not throwing it anymore.
You're right.
We're in the bottom of the 6th inning. Mitchell Industries. A run in the 2nd, a run in the 4th, a run in the 6th. Litzen had scored their run in the bottom of the top of the 6th inning. So it's 3-1. Mitchell holds on. There will be another game in this series. I don't know yet if the date for the game has been decided, but of course this is our game of the week and played here on this Sunday evening. Possibility the championship game may have already been played if indeed it would be necessary to play one. There's a called strike as Schulhauser finally finds the mark. 2 balls, a strike.
I believe if there is a third and final game, it will be played this coming Tuesday, Don.
Which would be the Tuesday before we broadcast this game. There's a little roller. Cliff Fraser now having to come in, pick it up. He throws, and a good play there. On to first base to Kirby Connor. Mitchell Industries picking up a run. They had 2 hits. There was a base on balls thrown in there as well. Mitchell Industries a big run as they lead this game after 6 complete innings by a score of 3-1. There you see it there.
Okay, leading off For Litson Sports, it's going to be Terry Stapleton, the coach and manager. Terry's going to be followed by Dave Whale and Dave McCrae.
And it's all up to the bottom 3 men in the Litson Sports order as we are in the top of the 7th. This is a 7-inning ball game. Litson Sports have 1 run on 3 hits. Mitchell Industries 3 runs on 4 hits.
Don, it all comes down to right here, doesn't it?
That's right. Sounds like that commercial. It's all down to this.
Mm-hmm.
We're at the Nelson Baseball Stadium. This is Game 2 of the best of 3 Lakeshore Men's Baseball League Championship Series. Mitchell Industries and Litson. Mitchell Industries, the champions last year.
And they'd love to be there again this year. This is where Paul Mike gets really tough. He's when he's ahead like this by a run or 2, he's a hard man to get a hit off of.
Well, there's no question that base hit by Royston in the last inning, which plated the 3rd run and a buffer run. It means that the tying run isn't at the plate all the time, and that's really the key to the whole thing. Mike now with 2 fast strikes on Terry Stapleton. Stapleton is playing 3rd base tonight for Litson. There's a well-hit ball into left field, but Brad Scott, plenty of room, picks it up for the first out.
First out.
Now down to 2. This will be Dave Whale, the 2nd baseman. Number 5, a right-handed batter. Whale knocked one back to the pitcher in the 5th inning. He struck out in the 2nd, so he's 0 for 2. There's an attempted bunt that saw a lot of people on the move, but the ball came all the way back to the screen. You can see Whale talking to Paul Mike, and Mike a big grin on his face as he heads on back to the mound.
I think there are a few people out here be talking to themselves before this one's over.
There's a foul ball off catcher Bob Hambrook.
You know, Don, I think it's worth mentioning too. I think Lisa Turbot has done a great job here of umpiring tonight. She's kept good control of everything out here.
We must interview Schulhauser after the game and ask him, but no question that he has done a great job. It's been a very fast-moving game. The game is well less than 2 hours old, and that's quite unusual for a ball game of this type.
Mm-hmm.
Lisa Turbot, young lady, pretty young lady too, behind the plate. There's a swing and a miss, strike 3. So Dave Whale goes down, and now we're down to 1, and this will be the 9th man in the order. Number 11, Dave McCrae. McCrae came into bat in the 5th inning and struck out. And Paul Mike, the pitcher, would love to duplicate that and send this game to a 3rd and final game, a sudden death match to decide the championship this year.
If Dave McCrae's got butterflies in his stomach, you can bet they're flapping around like eagles about now.
Well, you know, when you're pitching, no matter whether you're pitching slow pitch or whatever, and you're up by a couple of runs going into the last inning, there's a called strike, or may have been an attempted holdback of a strike, but it was called by Lisa Turbot. You always like to get the first out in the last inning. That's a big one.
Indeed you do.
Paul Mike winds, fires, called strike 2. This game down to a strike now. The swinging miss, strike 3, and Dave McCrae goes down swinging, and with that, Litson, no runs, no hits, no errors, nobody left. Mitchell Industries winning this ball game, 3 runs, 1 in the 2nd, 1 in the 4th, 1 in the 6th. Litson was able to pick up 1 run only, and that was in the 6th inning. And you can really call it the John Royston show tonight, because he scored a run and knocked in the other 2. A great game for him.
Did a great job. Did a great job.
Well, so did you, and it's always fun working with you, and certainly you know a lot of the players, and it's been a pleasure working with you this season, and we won't be here, of course, for the final game of this championship series, but there indeed will be as a result of Mitchell Industries winning this game tonight 3-1.
Don, it's been a slice, just like my golf swing, and I look forward to working with you again next season.
Well, we certainly will enjoy that. And again, a reminder, Cougar Hockey begins on CableNet Sports on the 25th of September. And we'll look forward to being back with Mike Spicer for those broadcasts. Well, Litson Sports goes down to a 3-1 loss to Mitchell Industries tonight, forcing a third and deciding game in the Lakeshore Men's Baseball League from the Nelson Baseball Stadium. I'm Don McMillan, along with Stan Carey. It's been our pleasure to be with you this season. We'll look forward to seeing you later on in this year. Good night, everybody.
See you later, everybody.